Before we continue, special announcement. We have just launched the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast drone pilot checklist. So whether you are a hobbyist or a commercial operator, this checklist will make sure that you have everything in order before you take off for your next flight. Now, to get the checklist, there's a link in the description, and you sign up and you will receive it in your email. Now, we are also announcing that we'll be launching the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast newsletter in a couple of weeks. So that's coming soon. And once you sign up to receive the checklist, you'll automatically be added to the newsletter listing. Or if you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can head over to the website, pilotsofthecaribbeanpod.com, and there's a form on the homepage where you could submit your name and your email address, and you'll be added to the newsletter list. And I guarantee you, you're not going to want to miss out on that because we have some really good stuff coming at you. So checklist, link in the description. If you just want to sign up for the newsletter, head over to the website and sign up now. Now back to it.
Don't believe me. Just have a look, all those great videos, all that social media, news. And there's one thing in common. It doesn't matter what showrunner it's out there. You're going to see this guy.
Welcome back to another episode of the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast, where we talk about everything drones and how they're being used in the Caribbean. Now, this week, I am joined by the Chief Operating Officer of what is probably the most popular company that you've never heard of. And that is none other than Mr. Robert Cheek, aka Rob the Robot Guy. We have a great discussion around the world of drones, latest in robotics, technology, and a whole lot more. Enjoy. Hi, Rob. Thank you for coming on this week's episode of the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast. How are you going, man?
Very good. Thanks for having me on, Alan. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Not a problem. I've been looking forward to this one since our last conversation at EDR. Rob, you are in South Korea right now, right?
I am in Seoul, Korea for the next 2 weeks, yes.
So what's the time over there right now?
It is 9:14 p.m.
All right, cool. So thank you very much for taking the time, because it's like 8, it's 8:15 here in Trinidad. So thank you very much for taking the time to do this recording with me today.
My pleasure. I'm glad we finally had an opportunity to connect.
Yeah, because we've been talking about it since EDR.
Right.
Rob, for the persons that may be meeting you and seeing you for the first time, how about you introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. So my name is Robert Cheek. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Uvify. I like to joke we're the most famous company you've never heard of. We're behind most of the successful drone shows in the world. We are the manufacturer. We are the technology company. We do designs. Also, we have a design arm. So we're behind a lot of the big names that you see with Guinness World Records and this and that. With our EFO platform, IFO, we also operate in other verticals, such as autonomy. We talked a bit about XI and some other areas as well. Our EFOS, our Omega are the standard reference platforms for PX4 developers. You can see all that stuff on Drone Code. And we're growing like weed. We're hiring. Let me just throw that there. Good people.
Are you guys hiring just for roles in South Korea, or is it outside as well?
We have employees all over the world. We have the bulk of our R&D and our manufacturing is done in South Korea. We have employees in Europe. We have employees in North America. We have employees South America, various parts of Asia as well. So we're actively hiring globally as we continue to expand. We are further also expanding our manufacturing to the United States because of the current geopolitical situation.
Oh, yeah. Who knows, after this, you might get your first Caribbean employee coming out to this interview. So, Rob, in addition to being the CEO of Uvify, you also go by Rob the Robot Guy online. How did that come about?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So way back, going the Wayback Machine from Hollis Robotics and stuff, and aerial robotics. I was the director of business development for a company called Eugene Robot and the innovation lab. And there we were tasked with, as you know, Alan, in many robotic endeavors, often engineers robotics had traditionally been plagued with creating a solution to which there is no problem. And so it had been plagued with that for years. So our task was to find a solution for autonomous technologies, which 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that, which at the time, people weren't ready or didn't, we had to put the vision in their head. We had to be able to match the technology with the use case. Part of that was, so we did develop something called Go-Kart, which was one of the first, if not the first, AMR in the world. It's still operating. It's they're moving bigger payloads now for different types of industries. But at the time, it was mobile robots were new. At the time, people were using AGVs, and it was a weird thing. Like autonomous mobile robots was just like, what? It's the same. You know the story. And so part of that, part of our what we were doing was we were looking at industries that with a problem or challenge that we could solve for them. And so, food and beverage, hotels, hospitals. And also another one was elderly care, which, as you know, is an issue as human life is extending, and governments are faced with challenges and with taking care of us as we age. And so at this senior or silver care conference that I went to kind of study the market, I was going around talking to different people in the silver care industry, whether building technologies or retirement homes, things like this. And so someone gave me the nickname. One guy's like, have you seen that Rob guy? He's coming around asking. He's got robots. He's looking to put robots into senior care centers. And so he's like, yeah, Rob the robot guy. And so it just stuck. I'm like, I'm taking that. That's now my moniker. And so I just took it as a badge of pride. I'm like, okay, I'm Rob the robot guy. But yeah, that's how that came about.
And you also offer services under the Rob the Robot Guy brand.
Right. Actually, I do not. I do need to update that. That was brought to my attention. I realized, I'm like, oh, that's I need to adjust it. It's more at this time, just because of the nature of the work I'm doing with Uvify, there could be potentially a conflict of interest. So it was brought up, and I'm like, I need to update the website, but that takes time, as you know, Alan. So It's really now, I like to write. I like to do research because in past life, I was a research analyst. And so part of that, I'm just very interested in what's going on in different parts of the world with technology, new developments, and how to put pieces together to create solutions that can help people or solve problems. And so that's why I'm always, I just like to write and I like to read. And so it's really my personal just blog right now.
Okay. And for anybody listening to this, Rob has an excellent newsletter on robotics and technology. And I'll put a link for you guys to sign up in the description. But so Rob, one of the things I want to ask is, you've been in the robotics industry for a while. You've seen it grown over a period of time. And now now it's a little bit easier to get into it. But how was your original start in robotics? Because I'm sure they existed, but I'm sure there was not a lot of persons doing it, or the entryway to it wasn't a very easy way. So how did you get involved in robotics originally?
That's a great question, Alan. So prior to working in robotics, I had worked in, again, investments for a private investment company. And our investments were in the games industry. So we worked with, like, I put on the first League of Legends esports tournament here in South Korea. Yeah. And that was like,
Okay.
so that was one. And then we did those. And so we were investing and partnering companies, and we also would publish apps. We were looking for developers to invest in esports, this kind of stuff. And then I decided I wanted to do something different. And so robotics kind of piqued my interest. And I reached out to Eugene Robot, and we met a couple times, had an interview, and they felt as a company that in the innovation team, that someone who's an external from the robotics industry with a different view might be able to look at opportunities differently than, say, someone who was endemic to the system. So I heard that I beat several PhDs with successful exits. So, and for me, it was all new. So I had to learn all this stuff, and I came at it kind of with a Zen mind, right? Like, I didn't approach it the same way, and it all the dots connected in retrospect, which is awesome. So it was just kind of just kind of ended up there. Like these dots, which are EFO. And then a picture came about. Shameless self-promotion.
That's fine. You'll be here for it. And I find that a lot of persons have similar experiences in this industry. We would have started when it was still developing, or in the earlier stages of development, and you just kind of found your way into it one way or the other. What does the robotic world or landscape look like in South Korea?
It is very evolved. It has a lot of support from the government, because I believe it's because it is a strategic technology, because South Korea is an exporting country, and because South Korea, I believe, has the fastest aging population in the world. They compete with Japan, both like we're number one on these different things. Also in declining birth rate, it's negative. So there's no population growth, no immigration, and fast aging society that with extremely long lifespans, which I think is the longest lifespan in the world. So you have a combination of factors, and that combination of factors, creates a situation where the government has to figure out, like in Japan, how are they going to solve for this? And we only have a couple decades to get this in order. And with that, also the benefits of that is the commercial applications from solving those challenges within the country.
Okay. And it sounds like you have a serious problem to have to deal with very, very, very soon.
Very quickly, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So moving a little bit away from the robotics side, I know they still overlap a lot, but I want to get into your work at Uvify. And I know for a lot of persons, it might be the first time hearing of Uvify, although it is, like you call it, the most popular company that you've probably never heard of. What is Uvify, and what is it that you guys do, for those that aren't familiar?
So at its core, Uvify is a technology company. We were initially funded to do GPS denied navigation, which is interesting because we didn't follow that path. Our first product was a shameless self-promotion, was the Draco. This guy right here. This was the world. Yeah, FPV drone. This was the world's first modular FPV drone with swappable analog digital. It's a modular system, and smart battery. We paused this because at the time, there may be some news articles where I'm saying it's going to be the next esport. But And I guess that's what we were all thinking, right? And with all the simulators, the FPV simulators. But as you know, Alan, those guys that are good at FPV, yeah, this thing will go to 0 to 100 in like less than a second, and it's not something in esports. I'm a terrible gamer, but I enjoy playing once in a while. When I play against people in South Korea, just the average person, not even a pro, they're just next level, like, I'll talk about my ex-girlfriend. I've been happily married for a long time. I went to a PC cafe and I'm like, I'm not playing anymore. But anyone can play, or like baseball or basketball. I mean, I can play, I can enjoy it, but I'm not going to be able, I'm not pro. FPV, drone racing or freestyle, like that stuff, you get sick, and I'm like, this is so difficult. So that did not turn into an esport. And so we paused that because, we recognize, well, we're a business and we have to make the right decisions. But, before we paused that, part of the reason why we did that was at that time, if you remember like 3DR and so many drone companies, there's Parrot, and I can't even remember all the companies that went down because they went head to head with DJI. And when you go up against head to head with a very large state-backed organization, there's no, you can't win. So we've always taken a bit of a different approach. So rather than, kind of a Me Too or trying to just go head to head with a giant, I guess you call us revolutionaries, guerrilla army or whatever. Like, okay, so what did that do? It put us on the map. So I think it was 2016. We won a bunch of awards at CES, like best robot, best drone. So we just got tons of accolades from them. We got tons of press, and but no money. famous accolades without the money is, I mean, I guess for some people, it might work, but we have the employees, and we're a business. It's not a hobby. So with the cash, I think on Shark Tank, business is simple. More money has to come in than it goes out. And so using that formula, we like it. It's cool. But before we did that, we launched the Uri, the world's first smart micro racer, which we took. You can see the kind of gamified approach. There was like a little screen. So it looks like take that out. It's like a lot like a video game controller. So some influence there. And so again, it's going to be the next esport. But same thing, you had your things like the Tiny Whoop, which is a great little drone. It's cheap. Mm-hmm. We took a different approach again. We put in a lot of smart technologies where, hence the slogan Uri, play pro. So this I can fly. But even though it's really fast, it's got prop guards, smart technologies. Why did we call it play pro? Well, play, I can do it. But the pro racers, like the DRL, DR1, so we did work with the race teams as well. They also could enjoy this as well. And Uri, as you can see, there's a ring, and you could indicate, it also indicates battery, but you could change the colors. So when you're racing, everyone can know which team they're on. And so that's kind of Uri means in Korean means us or we. And so the OO is, it's like we can all play. I think everybody can enjoy it. So, but again, too early for its time, and so next. And we had a couple of other things, but the very interesting thing, Alan, is, as you know, there's tremendous interest in FPV now, and we're really good at building FPV as well. So that's why I said paused. I don't have a Wharf 9. And then we have a few other things like the Omega and some others, which are very much, you can see a lot of that stuff on like the Drone Code website. And then, of course, this guy, this is our EFO. I'll let your viewers EFO. not IFO. Again, I try to be clever with names, stands for Identifiable Flying Object. So, I don't have the sticker, but one of our partners in Germany, they have a UFO. I'll send it to you later. A UFO picture. I don't know if you saw like the X-Files where they have like that UFO in black and white from way back in the day. And I want to believe. So they took that, they stuck the EFO on it. Photoshop says, "We do believe." Because so the slogan for this is "See, period, believe." And the reason why we use that slogan is we created the space. We created a business where anyone could run their own light show, drone light show business. And now, as you know, Alan, there's many criers coming in, and everyone is saying like, "Oh, we're the world's number one. We're the best." And I say, under what criterion do you call yourself the best? Because your mother told you you're the best. We can back it up with flight hours, with Guinness World Records. I think as of July 4th, 18 achieved with that platform, and there's more coming. Last year alone, 1 million safe flights, 1 million units flew last year. This year, that number is even higher. And so we have the numbers. We have more world's firsts than every other platform, like world's first over Niagara Falls with the release of Avatar 2, world's first cross-border production, world's first commercial, world's first, and goes on and on and on. And I'm like, well, you get the idea. So and I like to say, I'm like, don't believe what anyone tells you in this business. Don't believe them. Most of all, don't believe me. Just have a look, all those great videos, all that social media, news. And there's one thing in common. It doesn't matter what showrunner it's out there. You're going to see this guy, the EFO. And that's, we say, see, believe.
Is it that you guys were the first to develop the drone light show, if not the tech, the drones themselves?
So I'm going I'm going to grab a book off the bookshelf. So if we go in the Wayback Machine, if you're familiar with these guys, Ars Electronica, out of Linz, Austria. So they did the Spaxel. And so Spaxel was the first one. And how do I get this book? I've been there. They use our stuff. So, and it's great because, we look at them like, you guys were like the granddaddy. But, Ars Electronica is very much like there it is, Swarm OS. It's like art, technology, business. It's very hard for, as an American or as a non-European, to wrap my head around. They're like, okay, well, it's kind of a business, but it's kind of an artistic thing, and they work with corporations. So, but they do, what I know is they do really cool stuff. And they have government funding. And so they did this, way back in 2010, 2005. But, wow. And it is their technology that was, how do I say this without disclosing? Let's say Intel. Then you saw the Intel stuff, but it was all. And, when you have a multi-billion-dollar company in a small little European house, funny things can happen, and eventually it became known as Intel, those drone ships. But it's these guys. And, but they're more on the art side than the business side. What we did is we saw what Intel was doing, and we realized that this could be an interesting business if we can build this, a system, a turnkey system that anyone could use, and that we could train them to operate, and it's proven itself out as a great business. And that's kind of the history of that. And now there's many companies in the space. And so we continue to evolve. And part of our evolution is something we call the FAB. And FAB stands for Fleet Augmentation Bank. the reason why it's called the Fab is because, well, I think it's a fab name. I love acronyms. It's easy to remember. And what we enable partners to do, and we call them partners, it's not in the legal sense, but it's how we view our business, how we work with others, because we believe in symbionts, tightly working with our partners around the world to help them achieve success, help them, whether it's Guinness World Records or sales or whatever, what they need in terms of technology development. And so with the Fab, what we've essentially unlocked and is the ability for someone to invest, like, let's say 10 to 20 EFO drones. And that's going to cost you, I don't know, $15,000, $25,000 in this range. I have to look at the numbers, depending. And however, you, with our support and our backing, are able to access or augment your fleet. So if you want to do something like this, or even better, 5,000, 4,000, whatever, well, now you are part of our ecosystem. And if you can sell it and you can realize it, we will help you achieve it. And this has proven tremendously successful. And I think you can see some of that in action over this past July 4th, over the sheer number of shows that were done across the US and subsequent years as well. We've been pretty quiet about it, but we're part of that not being the most famous company you've never heard of. We're making it known. We have these warehouses on both coasts of the United States, in LA and in Atlanta, as well as outside of Frankfurt, for, if you have European opportunities, as well as in Dubai. That just got approved this week by the Emirati authorities, which is great. Where was I going with that?
So what this is you guys are essentially helping drone show providers augment their existing fleet. So if you have 500 and you need 2,000 for a show, is it rent them?
Yes, it is a rental. So it's $50 for 5 days. So it's very reasonable. That's been evolutionary through interactions with our partners, like what makes sense, where's the market going. And the great thing of having almost 50,000 units deployed globally is that we know a lot about what's going on with the market, and also with the needs of our partners and how to help them make money, to be very crass, and us also to make money. And so it's proven tremendously successful. And I would say it's not so secret anymore within the industry, but I think maybe as from a marketing stance, it's kind of like the secret weapon that we provide our partners is a force multiplier without the heavy capital investment up front, because we recognize it's expensive. And some of the companies to get into this business, you only need a few $1 million. Not anymore, because we're enabling operators to do this. And I had this wild idea, and I'm thinking actually about making it into some marketing campaign. I'm gonna throw it out, see what you think. So VTuber Expo, that's a very interesting business, but that's another conversation. I was there, and I was some of my friends from Twitch TV friends. Actually, it was, I think, a month ago. Yeah, it was about a month ago. And so we're sitting and we're having a couple pints, and I'm like explaining this industry and this business and what we're doing. And I'm like, look, why would you imagine you live in New York or any a city with lots of licenses and approvals. And I'm thinking like hot dog stand, right? I'm a vegetarian, but a veggie hot dog stand in New York. That hot dog stand vendor, number one, they have to buy that hot dog stand. I imagine it's not that cheap. I imagine just from doing robots for food and beverage industries, I know what the kind of carts cost. I'm like, that's going to be like $10,000 just for that cart. And then the licenses and the approvals and all that stuff. I'm like, wait a second. You could get into this business for the same amount of money. So why would you buy a hot dog stand? So I was thinking about putting this in like this franchise magazines, like how many hot dogs can you sell with a hot dog stand versus if you're able to sell, if your ability to sell, you can sell shows at massive scale for big brands. What that translates to is hundreds of $1,000s, which, hot dog stands, it's going to take you your whole life to get that many hot dogs sold. So I don't know. What do you think, Alan? Like hot dog stand, it's kind of like a Sega inspired idea. Like just something.
Right. It's a quick one before we continue. What y'all doing in October? Nothing? All right, cool. That's something fair. In October 21st and 22nd, 2025, join the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast at the Elevate UAV Summit 2025 presented by Drone Nerds. Pilots of the Caribbean podcast is an official media partner, and as a part of that, we have a special discount code for our audience. So you're going to use the link in the description to get your ticket, and you're entering discount code Caribbean75 for 75% off your tickets to Elevate UAV Summit 2025 presented by Drone Nerds. So on October the 21st and the 22nd, I'm expecting to see all my people who could get there in Miami for Elevate UAV 2025. Now back to what we was doing. So the question I have coming out of that is actually one of the things that I've heard you say a couple of times is that you guys make it so that anyone can start their own drone light show business.
That's correct.
But how easy is it exactly for you to start a drone light show business with Uvify?
Great. That's a great question. So we make it, it's not an easy business. I'll be perfectly, there are exits, there are companies that, like I can't handle this too much, or any business, right? Any business it was challenging. One that involves tens, hundreds, thousands of flying robots with spinning blades around, women and children, and well, I should say the public, what could possibly go wrong, right? So there's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of safety measures. We, just like the fab, we make that bridge. We basically destroy the bridge. We put the continents together, if you would. So we make it as easy as possible. And how we do that is we train our partners through everything, every step. It's almost like a franchise. So we have a model, it works, and then we train our partners. We just replicate the model. Beyond that, we provide 24/7 support. So every partner has a channel with a dedicated manager. So, they can reach out anytime, like, hey, what's this? Should I do this? Or maybe their sales team, like, hey, look at this site. What do you think? And so we help them. We may say, hey, we want to see the coordinates. And then we may see can you send someone, get some pictures or some video, like something that's at a tree or something like that. So we are really your technical partner behind the scenes. And so there's a degree of comfort that our partners feel with us versus other companies. Some companies, they're always on holiday or vacation, or that they're unavailable outside of business hours, or without naming names, or things like perhaps their ability to communicate is linguistically challenged, I should say. So that makes it very difficult to support. Design. We have a design arm. We design the bulk of those great shows that you're seeing. Part of that is, it's like a movie industry. So we get a storyboard from whatever. It could be a county fair. It could be a brand. It could be a ultra high net worth individual. And so that's also another arm of our business. So producing content for our partners. But we also provide you with show software as well and training on that. But the thing about designing your own shows versus having the world's best design team create your shows, and we have the catalog to prove it, we are going to improve our social media. We're just we realized that it's lacking, and we're like, okay, it's time to start just doing a data dump, and we have someone to do that now. The difference between designing your own shows, or what I like to call it's really not drone show. I think drone shows were 5 years ago. I think we are at an age of cyber physical content, and this is a cyber physical content delivery system. The thing about doing that is, if you can make a decent website with Wix. You can make an okay cake at home. But you're not going to have an Apple website. You're not going to have a Tesla website, which is just beautiful and millions of dollars. We don't charge millions of dollars, but we're very affordable, very reasonable for the types of clients you get. But we do, again, we make that available. It is your choice, and we make that choice available to our partners. So use our design services. And so we've got, I think I showed you like just some projects, how many projects are active and not active, but that we've gone through. So there's tons of stuff going on right now in the industry, as you know, Alan, is like, and so, yeah, we just keep hiring designers. I like to joke, like, I didn't know we were becoming a content company. Like, okay.
In terms of like the initial investment to get the types of service that you spoke about. So I know you may not be able to take up exact figures, but so is there like a minimum initial? And if you can, what does that look like?
We have a starter package, which we really strongly encourage to start with 20. However, for Pilots of the Caribbean, your viewers, we have a starter kit, and they just got to say Pilots of the Caribbean. You know a guy, and we have a 10 kit to get them started. We call it like a cedar kit. So we want the platform. We want to continue to like have the network grow larger and larger. We want it to be 500,000, 5 million. Why do we want to continue to spread the technology? Why is it with this platform? That opens doors for opportunities. So let's say like a big brand, like a new TV show, they may reach out to us or one of our partners and say, hey, do you have an EFO operator, a partner in Japan? Oh yeah. And then we'll just connect, say, hey, are you interested? And so there's a lot of this stuff that goes on now. They want the same platform, the same experience, the same proven reliability, and having that and continuing to grow that is good for everyone. And so that's why, the 10 is like the cedar kit. And we've only really talked about that at a couple of conferences, and also for Pilots of the Caribbean. So, but yeah, the official line is 20.
Okay.
But yeah.
That doesn't sound too bad. How has Uvify dealt with? Sorry,
better than a hot dog stand.
for real.
I'm gonna research that.
And a lot more exciting as well.
Sorry. Back to the serious question.
How do you guys, or how have you guys dealt with the regulations around drone light shows? Because in Trinidad and Tobago, I mean, drone light shows have been around for years at this point, and we recently only had our first one here last year because of regulations and the process to get things done and that kind of thing. How was it for you guys getting started with something, new in this industry? Well, creating this industry, so starting something new and then helping persons deal with their regulations in different parts of the world.
Right. That's a good question. So when this started, it was, I don't want to say Wild West, because that's not a good analogy or metaphor. It was less restrictive because it was new. We had the basic drone regulations, and when it started, at the time, and the funny thing is you still see shows, with like a heart, and they're like, oh, that was awesome. It's very simple stuff. And I do everything I can to not be snippety, like really, like, so it wasn't, massive shows in New York City, Dodger Stadium, or wherever, over in Miami, London. So as it evolved, the regulations evolved, and we welcome that, and we work, with the FAA, with the Korean FAA, with CASA in Australia, with Transport Canada. So we work closely with the regulators around the world. As I mentioned, we recently expanded to Japan. But they don't want to talk, they're not announced themselves yet, so I'm not going to say their name. As well as some places in the Middle East, same deal, stealth mode. We don't do the homework for our partners, but we certainly help regulators. And we were talking about tribes earlier before the podcast started. There's more in common than uncommon with regulations. There's like subtle variances. Some are stricter than others. Japan was quite, strict, but once we overcame that hurdle, great. It's all unlocked. But yeah, by and large, regulators, and the aviation authorities, they're very similar. And so, yeah. And one of the things we say is, we don't do your homework for you, but we will help you provide guidance, because the regulators, let's say when you're applying for your waivers, or, they know the people who are doing copy paste, and that's unacceptable. They want to know that, like, you're thinking like, this is what I would do. And so that's the thing, in your own language, how you deal with that situation. If anyone copy and paste, I'm like, do not copy paste other stuff, because reject. It's offensive to them, actually, I think, as it should be. That's their job, and we're glad we're doing that, because as the industry grows, we welcome more regulations. We believe it needs, we need to regulate it, and also from our side,
we have we've seen great drone light shows. We've seen, so many Guinness World Records that you guys have been able to achieve. But I think the only thing that spreads faster than an incredible drone light show is when something bad happens at a drone light show. How have you guys dealt with, have there been any instances of that with Uvify drones, and how have you guys dealt with it?
There has been one, and it was probably the most famous one in the world. Our name is not mentioned, nor is our platform mentioned. Without going into too much detail, it was very much focused on the operator. So it's operational procedures, and that's public information. I think I probably can't comment too much on that, but further, particularly with our FAB, our rental program, we have also tightened our regulations to our partners. So we've put in things like, we require a camera, like a GoPro or something. We want to see the pilot operation area for the full duration, before the show, during the show, after the show. We require cameras, and we require the operators to keep those on file for 5 years, because we need to make sure that we don't have a bozo explosion with swarms of drones. And so that requires, more oversight on our part as well, because, there are companies that are just running around, and as it grows, they'll take shortcuts and things like that. And so, this is why we have these procedures now.
Makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, if it comes up, it's your brand reputation at stake out there, and you need to do everything that you can to protect that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's next in the world of drone light shows and drone light shown drones?
Right. So Pyro, as you know, Alan, Pyro is the big thing.
Right.
We're the first with our partner Spy Elements to make this legal in the United States. And also they held the Guinness World Record for the most Pyro in the world launched off of a drone at a show. I forgot how many, it's like 1,000, 1,200. It's the Guinness World Record, and 100% success rate. A couple of other companies have since subsequently followed suit. They're lucky if they get 70% firing rate off their systems. And again, don't believe me. Go look at the videos. Said see believe. Just go have a look. And that's a trend we see. And it's kind of funny because, a couple years ago, people in drone show space were like, okay, pyro is dead. And eventually, due to regulations, environmental concerns, many reasons, that industry, we all know, it's a sundown industry. However, we do see when you integrate it with pyrotechnics, not the stuff that goes boom, which terrifies wildlife, which terrifies veterans, with people with PTSD, and you can go on and on. Domestic animal services, that, I think that's on its way out. But the things that are called like waterfalls, that kind of things, or they're called gerbs, the like kind of Roman candle things, smoke, that kind of stuff, different effects, launched off of, and I don't have the pyro module here, seems to be a trend. And what I see with that is it's kind of like mixed media art, right? So you can have different types of media in that art, oils, and you're creating a whole different way of expressing yourself, a new type of art, which is really cool. So I see that and other things coming as part of the evolution of cyber physical content.
That is interesting. And you guys are already looking to take advantage of that space. Our platform was the first. Yes, we are very active in that area, and we are developing really cool stuff to develop to further expand that market, to expand the creative potential of our partners. How is it that you guys manage? How is it that you stay ahead? Because what is the R&D process for a company like you guys to stay what's widely considered as the market leader in this space?
We don't sleep. We outwork everyone. I mean, and we have a lot of, fortunately, we have a lot of very smart people who work very, very hard towards a shared goal, shared vision. And I think, a big part of that is putting in the work, right? So if you read about athletes, you read about I just put in the work, or take Michael Jordan, read about him after the game. He's at work. He's just doing the work. People are like, oh, he's a naturalist. He just works like a machine. After a game, I'm going to recommend this book. And this book, This was a trainer. And when he talks about it, he's been a trainer of many great people. And he's like, there's a type. And he's like, they just don't stop, even in pain. Like, they just keep going. I hope that we have some of that kind of DNA in our company, that relentless, we're just going to keep pushing. You tell us no, we're going to figure out a way. We will just keep working. If it means we're not sleeping, we're going to get the job done. If we say we're going to do it, it'll be done. And I think many people take things for granted. They expect success without the hard work, or they think they're entitled without putting in the work. And so I think really it's putting in the work, like, okay, we're just work. And that's a big part of it. Focus and dedication to a mission, to excellence. Yeah. So I like to, we say we're in search of perfection. We're not going to achieve a perfection. That's God or the universe, the master program, whatever you believe. However, we strive for perfection. I think that's a big part of the human experience, is to strive to be perfect, to, in this lifetime, in these few seconds that we actually have in this corporeal form. And so I think that's a big part of it is our drive for perfection.
So in the drive for perfection, you guys have also branched or are involved in other technologies. And I think one of the things that you mentioned to me when we met at Energy was XI.
Yes. So
and you guys have been developing an XI platform. Sorry.
Oh, no. So XI is a technology. And so that is our VSLAM technology. We can achieve a 250 by 250 degree field of view, which no one has achieved because of our patented algorithms. We have some of the top SLAM researchers in South Korea who are part of our company. And it is going to be deployed. It's something we use for our own systems. I think you saw, and I have to name the product. It was an Omega with XI. It's still not been named. I should have a name next week. I'll get to you straight away. Let's see if it's all. But yeah, that's what we use for ourselves. However, there's other applications, particularly as you can imagine, Alan, defense, asset management. You can imagine we're an energy drone, the response from researchers in that area to be able to have something with much, much, much greater resolution than LiDAR for mapping and for autonomy. Also, digital twin. So we're seeing a tremendous response to XI and also from other drone companies, mobile robot companies, security applications. I think we showed you the XI with a LiDAR mounted on it. So we just announced it, I think it's been 6 weeks, and really the only people are some researchers at some large energy organizations and very, very interested. Defense, also people we've worked with on DARPA offset, so they know, and then now they know about this. We will start pushing the technology to the market. And of course, we are still looking at the business model for the technology. Are we going to license it, or is it a subscription? So we're open, and we are still, we're focusing on the technology, but we are open to, we are looking at different ways of making that available to other companies.
So for the technical people, they would have heard our breakdown and be like, oh, okay, that sounds really interesting. For somebody listening to this and is not technical, what sort of, let's say, everyday consumer type applications would XI enhance?
I think we that's a great question, Alan, because we exited consumer space because of talk about the bozo explosion. You get one person with an opinion and no knowledge on Amazon, and you're burning an inordinate amount of your time dealing with that one person. And so we we don't want to deal with this. But if you were to look at the consumer space, I think some areas might be like autonomous drones, right? So as we bring the price down, think something like DJI's autonomy, which is good. Something like that, but maybe with greater resolution, security, maybe home security, identification of threats, things like this. And I do need to give a thought about consumer space, but basically it makes better maps of the world. So if you imagine even like the games industry, when let's say like a Grand Theft Auto or something like GT, building realistic maps, right? Right now, and let's say commercial use. Right now, if you're building a digital twin using a drone, right now it's a pilot, maybe with the LiDAR, and he or she is takes a long time, money. Imagine 10, 100,000, something like this. Push a button, done. A system like that. how much time you could save, how much energy you could save. Or think about a search and rescue. And this is something that I've, these humanitarian uses of the technology is something I'm very interested in. We will eventually start as soon as, these agencies get, what it can do. But imagine like poaching of, endangered species or forestry, how you can deploy right now, or a lost person, maybe someone's lost in the mountains or something, you can, rather than a helicopter, and I still don't, I've got a lot of helicopter pilots in my family, but they're really expensive to run and they're dangerous, and the pilots, everything's expensive. And then, so right now you got, the guy with the drone, like we saw this at a music festival, the police officer with Teledyne, and first he's like, yeah, it's very expensive. I'm like, I know it's expensive. Give me a jump. I know. But imagine, rather than that individual with that one, with his, Teledyne drone, that searching for whether it's a lost person or like a child or something, you send up a swarm, it does this, you have a map, and you find them almost instantly. That no longer becomes a problem. There's no more of this, someone lost at sea, with the plane going around and all that stuff. We can map close, we can map instantly. So I think I'm very excited by, the potentials for improving the human standard, a human quality of living, even with cyber physical content delivery, something that I've been thinking about for years. And I think I just need to communicate to the stakeholders in those areas. But imagine, you always hear about a lost child, a child is lost somewhere. There's no cell phone signal. What are you going to do? And so you send in a helicopter or a plane, or maybe, and it's wonderful that, recent news, someone with a drone found a girl, I think somewhere in the US, it's a drone pilot, just a private drone pilot, that's fantastic. And he's a hero. But imagine a system where you push the button and let's say there's a fire and there's a big sign. No matter what, you're going to look, because the way the human eye has evolved is to track motion. It's just something over time, and cats are very, very optimized for this. That's why when you do that, they go nuts, because they're tuned to motion, because they're predators. We were, and so we also have some of that still. And so when something moves, we just look. We can't help it. So there's a sign in the sky. Go that way. There's a big arrow. Go that way. And so or imagine whatever your political views are, of, say, refugees or people crossing the border. People are dying in the deserts in around Texas and the US, or in that part, there's no water. Or people that are on boats escaping, let's say in Europe, they're on boats, they don't know where to go, they need water. Regardless of your political view, still human beings. You can put up a sign, water 5 kilometers that way, or safety there, something like this. So there's so many cool use cases that we've not even started to touch on yet. And I've been thinking about this stuff for about 5 years now. But it's just a matter of addressing those stakeholders and showing them, like, this is what we can do with this technology. Challenge also with that as a company is they need to spend the money. Right now, it's pretty much the military that wants to spend the money. I mean, that's the sick, sad thing about human beings. The great irony of this human experience. But yeah, I'm not going to go into all that. That's over beer.
How do you balance what the potential that you see and what is available and what can be available based on technology and where it's going with people who would see drones and the ability to swarm and robots and now more and more humanoid robots and think to themselves, have you not seen Terminator? Could be the worst thing ever and they could take over the world. How do you respond to that extreme? Because places like me would see this tech and get excited and want it and want to see it. And then you have no, let's not, because we have seen a movie and this is what we think could happen.
Right. That's a great question, Alan. I think there's two parts to that. Part one is, it's a funny thing because going back to XI is spatial AI. So that's what's called. So we do work in that vertical, and AI, really artificial intelligence. I think that, the term was like the 50s at Dartmouth College, just because they didn't know what to call it at the time. And we really should, if you're going to call it anything, it would be synthetic intelligence. But even beyond that, it's really a marketing buzzword. I mean, I still am like, it's advanced software. Let's not forget that it doesn't have a soul. I mean, full stop. I don't care what you say. And actually, it's funny because I was at a conference with in Abu Dhabi a couple years ago, and the whole conference was about dealing with AGI when it comes online, when machines are self-aware, which yes, that's absolutely feasible. And the issues, and they're from different universities all over the world, and they're called the Social Robotics Conferences. How humans and robots, how they interact, what are the laws we're going to make? And I'm very thankful there are people smarter than me that with PhDs in philosophy that are developing like how are we going to deal with it? What is right? What is wrong? What the robot's rights, and so I'm listening to all this stuff, and I'm invited as from the business side, and so some of the topics that were discussed was, and I know it's going to sound really weird, but I remember, and he's a very well known professor, but one of his topics was robot rape, and like, okay, this is getting weird, but we have to ask these questions. I mean, and that's what these academics, that's what they do. And it's great, because the philosophers have to look at how to apply just laws, how we're going to define, what is just, and how we're going to deal with some of these changes. My view, as we're sitting at a table, and I remember very clearly, what I found very interesting is my counterparts, and they're like, okay, guys, so you're talking about robot rights. I get it. And, what I understand, that's what you do, and it's a very important question at this point in history, in our human experience. I go, however, let's look at this. Can we all agree that animals, particularly like mammals, can feel love? They feel fear. They have emotions. They don't do complex maths. Maybe dolphins, but that's another conversation. So we've still not figured out, robot rights. We're barely figuring out human rights. What the hell are you talking about, robot rights? Like let's start with this. And they're like, you're right. I'm like, I've never won an argument with a philosopher in my life. I was very proud of it. I share the story, but these are things, and when I look at it even further, if we go out on the fringe, into the fringe zone, which is not so fringe anymore, and we look at something like, if there is super intelligence, like Nick Bostrom from Oxford, great book, and that super intelligence looks at our species and learns from our species and how we treat other species, other human beings, that's not a very good, promising outlook for us as a species, as the human race. Like,
Yep.
Oh my gosh. And that's an analogy, like super intelligence. Oh, humans, like colony events, just wipe them out. Yeah. Don't even think about it. Animals, send them to slaughter. They're screaming, as they're going into slaughterhouses, and They serve a function. And you can even go to the Matrix thing, right? The line, "You are a virus with shoes, and we're the cure." Like human beings destroy every other thing on the earth. Good point. And and also like Battlestar Galactica reboot, really interesting. I highly recommend it. However, I do my best to, if we go down, unless you're a philosopher or that's your specialty, in our world, we very much have to focus on the business case and the safety of it. And so, I guess the bottom line is I don't know, but we're in really interesting times.
Is there anything that you see in the drone robotics, basically technology in general space, that still impresses you?
Alan, what I think is very interesting, and it's very much what we are pinning our vision of the future of drones. I think the evolution of humanoid robotics is fascinating. I think Optimus, and coupled with Grok and all of the what Tesla has gained from its cars, and I think that's going to be very interesting. People are like, "Oh, Elon Musk's a big salesman." I'm like, I would never bet against this guy. I wouldn't bet against him. Like every bet people have made against him, like just a bunch of haters. I'm like, I wouldn't bet on that. See, believe. It may take a bit longer, but he gets there. So that's real. That's pretty exciting what they're doing. I think also, what for our business, what I'm particularly interested in is swarm technology, the applications, that we have not seen, coupled with autonomy and artificial intelligence, spatial and AI. When you take this and then you take this, I mean, when, before the flip phone, we had this stuff, and then suddenly there's how many industries have just off of a phone. So I just imagine what's coming. And so that's where I see the future for drones. And that for me is very exciting. And that's what keeps me doing what I'm doing, is, taking swarm technologies, coupling that with machine intelligence, spatial AI, and what kind of applications are we and industries are going to come from this. At its most base level, the whole advertising thing, you see some of these small companies like, "Oh, it's the ultimate marketing tool." I'm like, figured that out years ago. You're still saying it's cyber content delivery, it's three-dimensional. We're telling stories. So I think, beyond that, it's very exciting to see where swarm autonomy is going to take us.
Rob, I know I need to let you go in a little bit. I just need to I just want to get to two more things. Well, a couple more things before I let you go. Here in the Caribbean, we haven't placed a significant emphasis on things like robotics and autonomy and AI. And, we're starting to see it more and more in certain places, but still not the kind of push that you're seeing existing outside of the region. What kind of advice would you give to persons that, this is the world that they know now? AI is a part of life. Robotics, drones, they are all a thing. They have existed for as long as they know. And this is an industry that they see and want to be a part of. Given where we are in the world right now, what sort of advice would you give to someone in a region like the Caribbean that is interested in this industry?
So, Alan, your question is more from, let's say, a young person, like looking to what to study or what to do, or someone going into like a business, or?
So a younger person, let's say just getting out of high school, going into college, looking for direction, because there aren't that many pathways in the Caribbean into this field specifically.
Oh, sorry. I just heard specifically.
So, sorry, I said there aren't that many options for a person in the Caribbean to get into this field specifically.
So the thing about that is, I think the main question that anyone anywhere in the world should ask is how. It doesn't, we all know of success stories because I love reading about people that overcome adversity, where they're from. And, I think we all love those stories. And they're inspiring, what humans can do when they believe, when they have belief in themselves and in their vision. So I think what I will recommend is don't let geography, class, any of these questions, your school, it's all nonsense. Or what people tell you, it's not like this. You have a vision, you develop it there, or go somewhere and develop it. Go to the US or, Germany, or I don't know, Korea. Build it there, learn from somewhere, bring it back. There's so many paths to realizing your vision. Main thing is not to be confused by the illusion of your location or what's going on around you. You have to stay true to your vision of what you see, and everyone has this. We all have it. We all have a narrative, but we have to follow through, and don't let don't let the noise get in your way. Of whatever that noise may be. It could be someone telling you, that's not going to work here, or, that's difficult. No, it's all noise. Just stay true to your vision, make it happen. Because if you believe, you make magic. When what people will say, it's an overnight success. There's no overnight success. It's putting in the work, focus, a dream, and things happen.
See the success and think, it happens overnight, but nobody ever sees the journey. People very rarely see the journey to get to that point. Yeah. Rob, before I let you go, question of the audience, and that it usually goes, well, in your instance, there are a couple industries because of all the things that you're involved in. But what is one thing you wish you knew about the drone and robotics industry before you got into it?
How difficult it is. This. I would have chosen to make, I'm being facetious, iPhone cases or a hot dog stand. No. That's a great question. And actually there was a conversation, I'm not going to name names, but it was at either CUAV or Exponential or Drone Code. I don't remember, but there was a group of us, and, as we all do in industries, because we get together a few times a year and we all just end up hanging out. We're going to have drinks, and even from competing companies or frenemy companies. And so we're like drinking, and I'm like, and I learned this from when I got into mobile robots. I'm like, why is it that we choose to do the most difficult work there is? When I get robots, I'm like, we have hardware, we have software, we have humans, we have all these things we have to deal with. Why don't we just make, I'm just going to say Flappy Bird, some app that is doing this? We make millions of dollars. And we choose to do it because it's challenging. We choose to do it because it's hard. And the CEO of another drone manufacturer, and he actually mentioned the plastic phone case. He's like, I'm looking at this guy, and he's got this plastic phone, and he's like, he's probably making more money than me, because he has to reinvest, right? And it's tough. It's tough, but we continue to do it. And I think, I don't know, maybe we're just masochistic. I don't know. I'm just kidding. We're gluttons for punishment. I think it's that vision, and when you do realize that, when you do achieve that, I think that's the reward in and of itself. And then the money comes, but you just have to stay true to that. Not, obviously the person, making this case very clear, like, okay, how am I going to make the most money? And I know people that are very good at this, like identifying where they can make huge money very quickly with the minimal amount of work. And that's a skill in and of itself, but it's not what I was put on the earth to do. And I imagine it's the same for you, Alan.
Rob, could you let people know where they can find you, learn more about Uvify, sign up for your newsletter?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach us at www.uvify.com. That's U, V as in Victor, I as in intelligent, F as in Frank, and Y as in yes.com. And you can look me up, Robert Sheek, that's CHEEK at linkedin.com. And you can also always reach out to my friend Alan, and always happy to have a chat. He knows where to find me.
As usual, all our links will be in the description for this video. Robert, thank you so much for coming on to this week's episode of the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast. It was a pleasure having you.
Likewise, Alan, it's a pleasure seeing you again. And I love the podcast name. It's cool. I'm into names.
Thanks for that, man. So we'll be in touch. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Cheek.
Thanks, Alan. You have a good one. Talk soon.
Take care.